Microsoft and their squeeze of the industry is affecting Sony and PlayStation much more than anyone else, and it's PlayStation's fault. I know what you're saying. PlayStation 5 is the #1 selling console month to month. They're almost 9-to-1 outselling the Xbox Series consoles in some regions. They seem to be going from strength to strength, and yes, I'm not saying that PlayStation isn't going to be the dominant platform, the dominant choice for people who are buying consoles when they have a choice between an Xbox or a PlayStation. Yes, most people are going to choose a PlayStation. Yes, Sony has these amazing second and third party deals that have happened in the past and that will happen in the future. And yes, there are first party games that have been made that have been great, and conceivably there are first party games coming. It's not like PlayStation's just going to stop making first party games. So what do I mean when I say it's PlayStation's fault, that they're feeling the brunt of this squeeze that Microsoft is doing when it comes to the industry? Microsoft has a $2 trillion market cap, so if your competitor can pretty much just take a shit in a box and sell it to people and not have to worry about the damage done to their brand, they can literally make failing hardware forever and not feel it. What do you do when you have a competitor like that? Well, Sony is going to have to do what they've always done in the past, and this isn't a dig, but they've always sort of mirrored their strategies based on what Nintendo has done. I'm not saying hardware-wise, but certainly when it comes to software, they've taken that approach of having the sort of kid-friendly games and then skewing heavily towards teen and adult titles. What Sony has to do is something that they haven't been able to do, and they're not going to do at this point. They failed to capitalize on their brand and making it something other than a brand that is centralized in the video game space. What do I mean? Well, you're not going to see theme parks built around Kratos or Ratchet or Spider-Man or anyone else within Sony's catalog of first-party games. They did not take their brand, their IP, and make them more than just relevant in the console video game space. You look at what Nintendo has done, and it was a plan. Nintendo has a strategy, and I constantly am amazed that people are looking at things that Nintendo are doing and saying, well, this new hardware isn't going to be powerful. This new hardware isn't going to hit this specific spec. And there's a reason for that. It's because they utilize a strategy called lateral thinking with withered technology. What does that mean? Withered technology doesn't mean it's technology that's withered or useless. What it means is it's tech that has been used. It's a known quantity, so it might not be the strongest GPU or CPU. It might not be the best RAM, but it's been utilized. People know how to do it. They've developed to the metal when it comes to systems designed with this withered technology. The lateral thinking part is taking that technology and doing something that nobody's thought of yet to do with that technology. That's why Nintendo is able to move from generation to generation and not have to worry about trends, not have to worry about games as a service trends, not have to worry about online trends, not have to worry about $2 trillion market cap competitors squeezing them, because they are in the cultural lexicon of everyone's consciousness. Theme parks, movies, toys, action figures, plushie dolls, dedicated stores in certain cities. And that's before we even talk about video games and video game systems. They don't have to worry about what Microsoft is doing, but Sony, in failing to take their brand to that level, they've got to worry. Think about this for a second. Think about the cost associated with developing a PlayStation 5. a really, really powerful system. This is why they're following that playbook that they've done PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, 4, and now PlayStation 5. It's you release the hardware, then you try and shrink it down to cut the cost of manufacturing so that you can make a little bit more, or even start making a profit on selling the hardware and then the software. Of course, Sony is making money with third parties. Third-party games sell best on the PlayStation brand rather than the Xbox brand. So if you can create a platform where everyone can make money, you're going to do well. The issue is having not taken their brand to the level that Nintendo has. They've got to worry about these rising costs. They've got to worry about creating hits. They've got to have a hit to hit to hit. These games have got to be great. They've got to be that Sony quality. They've got to worry about that. So they've got to partner with second parties and third parties to get games and hope that those games are great, like the upcoming Silent Hill 2. They've got to partner with people like Kojima to make Death Stranding, which a lot of people just don't get. They're making a sequel to it. Are these games going to push the brand in the console space for console gamers? Sure. Are there first-party games $300, $400, $500 million now? The costs rising, Microsoft acquiring things, squeezing behind the scenes. Can they continue to spend that kind of money and take those kind of risks on things that they're not sure about? I don't know, but if they had transitioned their brand the way that Nintendo has, they wouldn't have to really worry about it. If they were getting money from selling amiibos and dolls and plushies and now movies, if they were creating their own ecosystem when it comes to that hardware that doesn't cost a lot, they're not worried about competing on the CPU space, the GPU space. They're not worried about the buzzwords like ray tracing. They're making hardware right out of the gate that offers them profit for each one sold, and then they're using that lateral thinking to do things with that hardware that's unique. Their first parties are using it in unique ways, and they've got talented developers that continue to make just good games that don't cost $300, $400, $500 million. So what could Sony do? They can't capitalize on their brand in the way that Nintendo has. They haven't done it yet, and they can at this point. But what they could do is something that I don't think they will do, and I really don't think fans would like it, and that's not drive the biggest hardware spec. Cut their cost, make a system that's capable, and rely on their first party to showcase that. It doesn't have to be the strongest system. The PlayStation 6 could be weaker than the next Xbox. Rely on first party and do fine. Now, I know they have Sony pictures. Before you jump in the comment section and tell me they have movies, but they clearly make the most money with the PlayStation brand. The PlayStation brand is Sony. So without taking those characters to that next level, without making those characters be something more than just video game space characters the way that Nintendo has. I mean, there's a museum opening up in Kyoto for Nintendo. And again, I mentioned theme parks, plushie dolls, stores, everything other than video games, and then video games. Sony not doing that means they have to worry about making hits. They've got to spend big and hope that those hits are hits. And if they're not, they lose tons of money. And with Microsoft buying everything and squeezing and just pushing the idea of not owning anything, subscription service games can be bad at launch. Maybe they'll get better later on. With that happening and being adopted by, a large group of people, Sony's in a position where they're either going to have to double down on themselves, cut back on the hardware a bit to make sure that they make money and they keep their cost in line the way that Nintendo does. They can still be a powerful system. They just don't have to compete with Microsoft if Microsoft makes a powerful system, because Microsoft really isn't taking advantage of the powerful system themselves. They don't have a first party that really pushes, graphically amazing games the way that PlayStation and even Nintendo does. There are games from first-party Nintendo that look better than PlayStation 5 games and Xbox games. So that's the video. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always, thanks for watching. Think about liking and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.